there, welcome to Imagination Television. I'm Ambika Kulburgi. Today we have more from the second DC South Asian Film Festival. It was organized by Manoj and Geeta Singh of Caesar Productions in Rockville, Maryland from May 10th through 12th. Indian Ambassador Nirupama Rao was the chief guest during the closing ceremony.
Like they said, all good things come to an end. So today is the closing event or ceremony. We are very, very honored to have the ambassador of India to US, Nirupama Rao, among us. And we would also, I want to just summarize that this year we were able to, a lot of hard work went into planning of this event. I'm thankful to all my friends, volunteers, and we were able to put a little bit more diversity to this year's film festival. We showed movies from India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh. Within India, we covered quite a bit of regional territory and showed movies in Urdu, Hindi, English, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam. And so it was, and also very good documentaries, short films by a lot of local talent. Some of them are sitting here. And so we always want to promote that. There was also local budding talent. Yesterday we had a tribute to Jagjit Singh, very successful event. Young girls growing up here singing Hindi songs. So we've tried to cover quite a diverse program, and also our motto has always been with every event we have done that we giving back to the society. So in this particular film festival, we helped American India Fund and also Global India Fund. And they're doing some very good work in India, and I would appreciate, I think the table is still out there and you can talk to them more about it. So now, again, I would request Nirupama Rao, Ambassador Nirupama Rao, to please come here and say a few words.
It is a privilege to be among you at this moment, and I just had the opportunity to speak to some of the talented actors as well as directors and producers present here today, and I can well understand the degree of interest that all of you have shown in this event, and I commend the organizers for bringing together, for showcasing this talent and the technical excellence as well as the substance that all our movies and documentaries seek to put across. South Asia is a region of great importance globally. I often say that on South Asia's success depends the success of the world, because it has within its confines a vast majority of the world's population. At least I would say, should I say about 25% at least of the world's population. And that's a huge amount. Just take India's 1.2 to 1.3 billion people and you get an idea of the numbers involved. And the movie industry of South Asia really tells the story of South Asia's people, their emotions, their hopes, their aspirations, their passion, their feelings about the world around them, the environment in which they live, and their hopes for the future. In fact, this year we celebrate 100 years of Indian cinema, and this was when I will not use the word Bollywood, because the term Bollywood came into being much later. I think it is 100 years of Indian cinema, and this was 100 years ago. The partition of the subcontinent hadn't happened. So the Pakistani film industry and the Bangladeshi film industry also shares, I think, in that anniversary to I would say, a significant extent. So we must keep that in mind. So the creativity of the movie industry and the talent of its producers, directors, and actors and actresses is, to my mind, a symbol of not only of the creative expression of our region, but also of the unique talent that our region has to offer, and the unique identity that we possess. Often, we are in many ways, I would say, hampered, we have to say that, by political divisions, by differences between countries that have come up from time to time, and people outside South Asia often tend to focus on those differences rather than on the factors that unite us. So I'm so happy that you have a film festival that looks at South Asia as a whole and brings home to American audiences particularly the various characteristics that unite us rather than divide us, because that is very important for us as South Asians to communicate to the rest of the world.
As part of the closing ceremony, awards in different categories were distributed to some of the featured films and documentaries. Some of the filmmakers chaired a panel discussion on the state of independent cinema in India and the US.
I think the challenges might be a little bit simpler here because we don't have as much censorship that maybe some other regions might have to deal with playing the films. They may not play in all the festivals. I would say that if I was marketing a documentary, whenever I've had many documentaries, I would think about it as a sort of a three-pronged approach. I would look at television, film festivals, and also distribution. So those are the three things that I would kind of concentrate after the films are done. I think that for us, it's a little bit easier to get films, documentaries on American public television rather than having it to be the Doordarshan stamp or any of the major television stations in India. So there are organizations like NETA, National Educational Telecommunications Association, where you can submit your film, and if they accept it, then it's really up to you to market the film and get the local PBS stations to showcase your film. There's always there's also programs called Independent Lens, which are the larger bodies of PBS, and they have prime time. So that's one avenue for television, and I think that is where you won't make money off of it, but you will get a wider audience to see your film. And with our film, we actually had somebody stop our talent in New Jersey at a mall and come up to her and say, "Were you in this documentary I just watched on PBS?" And it was to us one of the largest moments of success, because we live here in DC, and we didn't know that the outreach of the film had gotten so far on public television.
The opportunities are immense. India being a big country, our neighboring countries they love cinema. There are challenges of distribution, yes, but within the country, I think it's going through an exciting time where technology has made filmmaking relatively cheaper, inexpensive, but at the same time, distribution costs have gone up, release costs have gone up, whether it's Hindi industry, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Bangla, everywhere. We don't really have any government support, and the government is actually also suffering from lack of distribution. Their own media units like NFDC, CFSI find it extremely difficult to release their films.
The fact of the matter is that independent cinema in our country, and I think around the world, is in really good shape. The problem isn't with the cinema, it's not with the directors, it's not with the filmmakers or the actors or the people who work in the industry, and nor is it with the audience. The audience is willing to watch a lot of different stuff. The actual problem exists with the bottleneck is the exhibition chain. And when I say the exhibition chain, the distribution chain actually works hand in glove with them. But the bigger problem is the exhibition chain. So the solution, I would think, to pretty much all of our problems across, and I think this would be borne out in the US as well, is that when you have small, dedicated, and when I say small, I'm saying 100-seater theatre, which actually, to be honest with you, if you need to watch Badra Man to actually understand exactly what we are trying to discuss here, because it will tell you exactly what we are saying. If you have a 100-seater theatre, you and I know that we will go on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, depending on whatever it suits us, and pay the 300 rupees or the $15 that it takes to go watch a film. And it also makes it viable for the theatre owner, because it's a smaller hall to fill. If I can fill a theatre to 100% or even 90% capacity, I don't mind keeping that film.
In 2011, I was sitting at the National Awards function, and we were waiting for the President of India to come. And I noticed that I was just killing time with another guy who was sitting next to me, and we just noticed that 85% of the films outside the Bollywood strata, amongst the award winners who were there, were either loss-making films or films that would never ever see the light of day in the manner in which we call distribution. And that is something stunning which people do not know. The other thing that struck me was that if I wanted to see any of these films, I would probably have to travel abroad, because they play in international film festivals. Most of them do not play in India. Yes, there are some festivals which played even in India, but it's not enough. And also what disappointed me greatly, and I'm sorry if I offend anybody here, but everybody was really just kowtowing to the Bollywood crowd. There were luminaries from the industry, cinematographers like Madhu Ampad, and there were people like that who were in the audience, and they were just being ignored. And nobody was interested. They were interested in Arbaz Khan, and that's true. And I'm taking this name because he was there. And now the point here is that how do we are our own worst enemies here.
I remember at a festival I was in Vancouver last year, there was a beautiful film that I saw by the Bengali poet and filmmaker Buddhadev Dasgupta called Quartet, based on Rabindranath Tagore's poetry, and that was funded by the NFDC. So obviously I'm not in a position to comment on that. You guys would know much better than I do. But I remember being quite impressed that the Indian government does support things like that and non-commercial films, and they were beautiful films, and a couple of them, and I watched another one also that was funded by the NFDC. Now they had similar problems with distribution and things like that, but the fact that the government is even putting up money. Now obviously the Indian cinema industry is light years ahead of the Pakistani film industry, but I get asked this question all around festivals. Are you guys lobbying the government? What's the government doing, for films? And I guess my background before this, I was working in development and low-income housing and that. So I guess when I get asked this question, I say, the Pakistani government probably has a lot more important fish to fry right now than film. There's poverty and education, lack of education, and healthcare and things like that. So that's one thing that I don't think there's too much hope, unfortunately, for Pakistan right now. Though it's very important when you guys talk about award ceremonies, also for independent films and things like that. That's really good stuff that needs to happen in Pakistan. In Pakistan right now, so first of all, there was a bit of a blackout in the cinema industry during the 70s during Ziaul Haq's regime, and all the cinemas were kind of closed down. So our Lollywood industry then, which was kind of at par with Bollywood, just kind of filtered away and died. And in the past 10 years, it's the media industry that's come up. So it's booming media industry, so a lot of TV channels that are doing very well. And now a few of those have now started some film, segments to them. And I really get surprised at the kind of lack of, knowledge that they have about films. The kind of conversations I have with the one or two people that are controlling the distribution industry in Pakistan are just so amateur that it's quite astounding. I remember we were talking with, we got no lift from any of the distribution industry for our film until we won the awards in New York. Then they were sort of calling us and saying, okay, we might have missed out on something, so why don't you come back and talk to us?
Has anybody looked at the Chinese film industry, the mainland Chinese film industry? Having lived there for a few years, I couldn't help but look at be privy to the contrast between the kind of thematic material that is put across in the Chinese feature film industry and what we do in India. and at the expense of sounding blasphemous, I just want to say we have a certain, I mean, in Bollywood there is obviously a storyline or a theme or content that obviously is commercially very viable and gets repeated, let me say that, over and over again in terms of what the audience wants or what you believe the audience would like. I'm not saying it applies to any of you, but I'm just talking of the common denominator. But in China, what I saw was in the television serials and the mini-series and also the films, an obsession with history, an obsession with Chinese history, whether ancient or recent. Maybe it has something to do with censorship and the fact that they cannot really comment on political issues, about the way gender issues are depicted in our films, particularly in Hindi films. I think the way the female form is depicted, or the way it is advertised. Let me put it that way, at the expense of sounding crass. Isn't there some cause for soul searching on these issues within the industry also?
The films that we actually believe in and we work on are pretty much exactly what you were speaking of. The only difference being that we try and make it entertaining. Whether that comes across or not is the good question. The problem just goes straight back to how do we show these films to the public. It's not a question. Like I said in my opening comment, the intent and the ability and the talent to actually do this exists. The bottleneck exists when you go to show it to the public.
I would just like to address the gender issue, and I think that if we support more young women filmmakers like ourselves over here, that we will see a shift in what films are coming out, because there will be a different sensibility that will be allowed to speak. And that's not to put down our male counterparts, but I think that we in this room, if we support your children, I see this all the time. I get students in my class who say, well, I'd love to be a filmmaker, but especially South Asian students, I'd love to be a filmmaker, but my parents won't pay for my college if I go study film or photography or the arts. So I think we have to sort of shift, in the United States, we have to shift our expectations, and if we support more of the young filmmakers and the young female filmmakers, I think we will see a shift in the type of films that are coming out.